Alright, good evening everyone. We're on to the 50th episode of Cultist Simulator, the Librarian run, playing as Ivan Vucetich. And we're doing, oh sorry, I think I already said we're doing the Librarian run basic, playing as a detective. But we are trying to get one copy of every book by the end of the run. So I sabotaged my intro by taking a look at Monday's episode, which is uploading, and I had a worry that I forgot to tag something properly. So, we left ourselves partway through an adventure in Fort Garrick. Might as well add I don't really need to add the funds, but we can. Dead circle are the edge of our vision like frayed dreams. The very air around us is chill with winter's shadow. They must recognize that. We fortunately avoided the troublemaker causing us trouble with by ransacking one of our locations. We are pursuing an investigation against them because we wanted to preserve the restlessness. Turns out a second one did not generate, so we don't need to worry about a potential dread coming onto the board. The last thing I do want to do, though, is get rid of the staleness. That may mean that I have to generate a fascination, but I'll work that out when I get to it. The wary dead, the dead draw back, their almost faces flat and watchful. They will not trouble us. So at this point, we should see the end of the expedition. Okay, so we can throw the library in there. My investigation has turned up no new leads. Now, it may be a good idea for me to throw a bunch of reason at the investigation just so I have some evidence in case I need to use the inspector's position when the troublemaker isn't available. I won't worry about that right now, though. Alright, we'll use Clovette for inspiration. I tend to like using the heart followers for inspiration on most things just because it's hard to see a situation where and a little extra vitality doesn't, like, vitality is probably the most helpful out of everything I can get. Erudition a little bit for just the fact that it frees up the library in some cases. You know, that's not a strict rule. And then, you know, Grail would be good for being able to get a glimmering, but, you know, I tend to use Grail for other things in this playthrough, so. The expedition continues. Our expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I could add funds now, or I could send another follower. Okay, season of suspicion, so we may actually be out the notoriety. Well, we could be out the notoriety in time, but we'll likely get another one from the expedition, so I should prepare. We probably send the Callagine off for that. And last night in the Mansis, I visited the Mallory, from whose hammers and crucibles one does not emerge unchanged, and for 9 beats my heart ceased while it entered the fires of the forge, and the passions of the forge entered into it. I woke with the dawn, and its poor divided colors inspire memories of the forge's passion for the sun, of the vagabond's curse, of the grail's deep longing. So many half-memories. I'm trying to think if there's any value in... I think I'm going to leave the dream slot open just because there may be a fascination. Now, I don't have a fleeting reminiscence, so it's not going to mean that much, but... Yeah, actually, if I don't have the fleeting reminiscence, it doesn't really matter, so we will go back to the spider's door. Spider's door is always thirsty, always. The blood I have given leaks in threads and spills through the skin of the world, and the door drinks, and a moment's satisfaction swells its opening until I can pass. Okay, so the warded door, we call upon the Forge of Days, who will end all nights, will almost certainly shatter this warded door. And my minion has returned, attended by a prisoner rendered docile with delight. So if I thought I was going to get hit by the notoriety from the expedition, I'm definitely going to get hit by, by doing bad things in the night. So I'm going to leave the talk verb open for a bit. This is because I'm going to want to, first of all, get rid of the bomb maker, and then... no, actually, probably just grab the bomb maker. Okay, my recent work has drawn some attention. Something should sell, so we knew that was coming. Although it'll be a good opportunity for getting that last Port Noon anecdote. So I want to be a little careful in terms of how I time everything out. death of a door. All doors must open as all lives must end. This door found its end here today. So I'm probably at a point here where I could double up the Vagabond's maps, but we're waiting for the... Of course it does. So I do have an answer for this. I gotta prioritize. So first priority is going to be to clear out the bomb maker. Okay, I've increased my knowledge of the secret histories behind the one we know. 150 on the glimmering is a little tight, but I'm gonna go for it. History is less certain than we are taught. I can learn from the study of its blurred edges. Oh, there's gonna be another 30 seconds that tick by, actually. Last night in the Mansus I visited the Mallory, from whose engines and avenues one does not emerge unchanged. I watched the processes of the sunset, and I entered the amber joy and the white joy and the blue joy, and I was subjected to the enlightenments of calcination, and the forge of days touched me with her burnished fingers. And I rise from my bed with the utter knowledge that all nights, all nights, all nights must end. It's going to be a minute, actually, so that's not good for me. If hunters found notoriety, they will use it to create or upgrade evidence. If they're meticulous, they'll always succeed. If they're erratic, they're more likely to fail, but they can occasionally create evidence without notoriety. And progress, the constant clatter of closing doors, the damp stains on the station walls, the smell of boot polish and unwashed constables. All this narrows to a single crystalline truth. I've made progress and earned myself some overtime pay. I think my best bet here is to keep the work slot open. Okay, the governor's last move. The vault of Fort Garrick, a mosaic. The vault of Fort Garrick, a mosaic has been laid out as a game board of stupendous size and complexity. A map of the Evening Isles. The sea tiles are lapis. The islands are nephrite and obsidian. There are toy ships and tin soldiers. The Isle of St. Thomas is sieged. Raven Isle is crowded with black chess queens. Alright, I'm certain that my adversary has lodged a copy of their notes elsewhere, with their solicitor, with their superior, or even with a contact in the press. This is troubling. So I do have some I have a kind of an order of priorities for all of these things. Another season of Visions coming up. It all depends on the expedition finishing. Okay. We can do this. Iotic Essence. Last night in the Mansus I visited the Mallory, from whose fire one does not emerge unchanged. The forge's light fell upon me and my heart boiled, and when I woke my blood burnt within me so that I had to shed it in a cup before it overwhelmed me. And lo, 10 drops of it were not blood, exactly, unless it be the blood of the sun. Perhaps I found a cup, perhaps I found the cup and the blood is not mine. The forge, Seer's memory. In the later operations of the Forge, the Madrigad yields the true Forge of Days, and the essence begins to redden. Someday, perhaps it will not, but for now we have this. Okay. I'm just putting everything on hold for a second. That's going to get interesting. Course of the heart. Whenever the principle of the heart is implicated, I may gain vitality. Among the game pieces, items of true power have been used as temporary markers. Was this an attempt to hide them, or did the governor know nothing of their real worth? So we have a carcass spark, a remnant of a greater radiance, glowing softly as decay, just possibly a mote of the divided sun. This is a 12 forge tool. It's a trifle, really. My deeds, my powers, my achievements, and the injustices perpetrated against me, also known as my blog. The time of division, in which Amira Zara prophesies the events later known as the Intercalate, when the hour called the Sun and Splendor will be divided. the true blood of Saint Januarius. Sorry, Januarius. Thunderskin protected the one they call Januarius against the perils from every past. To this day, his blood keeps dancing. Alright, let's get this done in order. So we start by betraying and imprisoning the bomb maker. That takes 10 seconds. I'm going to send the Callagine to search the city. This may take longer than 10 seconds, but it buys me time. Yeah, season of vision, so I don't need to worry about this too much, but I do need to clear out the investigation of the troublemaker. And what do I need dream-wise? I technically don't need anything dream-wise, so I'm going to go back to the spider's door. Alright, I've locked this one away safely. When their screaming and raving subsides, I will subdue them properly. Okay, so we do have an opportunity to hire. This is a little unlucky because I was hoping to use the Callagine, although I could use the experienced swindler after all. And actually, Old and Happy Far Off Things isn't something I need to paint away because I can just let that decay into dread when the time comes, so we're good. There it is that it? I don't think we'll get the glimmering in time, though. Okay, Season of Suspicion, so that makes the destroying the evidence a higher priority. Okay, we got lucky. Well, that or I just didn't plan it out properly. I do need to be careful because this is a unique item, so there's a way that I can wind up eliminating my my Vagabond's maps in a very sad way. But we don't need to worry about that. Realistically, we don't need to worry about that. I'm not that neglectful. The spider's door gaped. Last night in the Mansis, I visited the Mallory, from whose impulses and rotations one does not emerge unchanged. There are many radiances there, from the fires and the forge, and her names and her instruments, but one radiance lingers behind them all like a fading music. The last light of the sun and splendor, shed in the moments of his division, here where the forge is strongest. Now that I have awoken, I see that radiance still. Progress, the constant clatter of closing doors, the damp stains on station walls, the smell of boot polish and unwashed constables. All this narrows to a single crystalline truth. I've made progress and earned myself some overtime pay. So I'm happy to have more than one tentative evidence, although it's probably not actually going to mean much in the grand scheme of things. This will buy their loyalty for now. So I'm gonna send the Callagine on another adventure. No, that was dumb. So hopefully it's Street Strange by Moonlight. Otherwise, I'm actually in a little bit of danger. Okay, good. So unfortunately, this does cost me with the Callagine. Actually, this costs me quite dearly. I think I lose the Callagine. So I'm going to get it. I'm gonna just enjoy a little peril. Visions abate, shadows are shelter from light. Despair is ballast, even misery has its uses. Okay, so we bought some time with the Mystique. I almost ignored the So yeah, oh man, that firing happened at a bad time. I know I read that before. I wish I could have read that before, but I need to concentrate. So we've got a few seconds before this finishes. Now, the good news is when you complete a task like this, it does not check uniqueness until it hits the board. So I probably have the ability to just ignore my study verb. But this is a situation where basically within the next minute, I need to make sure that I can clear out my explore verb and explore with the Port Noon anecdote. If I make the Port Noon anecdote and for any reason it winds up on the table, one is going to cancel out the other. And that makes for a very, very sad system shock. Okay. Intensity of radiance is still at 6, so we can go back to the spider store. I await word. We're getting very lucky with the... Alright, my minion has returned. The evidence has been destroyed. I'm a little safer. So 116 seconds. It's gonna get a little dicey here. And yeah, I'm pretty sure this is going to end before the Callagine becomes available, so I just need to cool it, and... Okay, Season of Sickness. I don't know if the Vitality... Yeah, Vitality's not going to be around. The most important thing is that I don't touch the study verb. Okay, so I was wrong. I do have a little more time. My investigation has turned up no new leads. I don't think there's any advantage to painting right now. I mean, I could try and use it to extend the fleeting reminiscence, but I don't normally like kind of doing gimmicky things like that. I will, but it's a last resort. Okay, so this will buy their loyalty for now. We talk with the Callagine. May even use them to get rid of the evidence. Look west to the evening isles where the long still walk. In fact, I should read this again because we don't get to see it often. Port Noon anecdote. Port Noon is where the long go to enjoy the sea and the sun, to drink from the spring that makes them forgotten and to stay out of trouble. Mostly out of trouble. The stories you can hear in the Hotel Ciervo are golden-dewed, quintuple distilled toasts to memory served straight up. Across the far sea, Port Noon lies. Exiles, monsters, and visionaries have long favored the waters around it. Perhaps we shouldn't get too close, but it might be useful to get close enough. Okay. Spider's Door gapes. Last night in the Mansis I visited the Mallory, from whose engines and avenues one does not emerge unchanged. I watched the processes of sunset, and I entered the amber joy and the white joy and the blue joy, and I was subjected to the enlightenments of calcination, and the forge of days touched me with her burnished fingers, and I rise from my bed with the utter knowledge that all nights, all nights, all nights must end. So, I don't have any bodies left for dreaming. Just leave things be for now. At this point, we're going to get hit with the notoriety. Yep, there we go. I've increased my knowledge of the secret histories behind the one we know. So this is excellent news. So again, you can see here, right, that if I didn't actually hit the collect, then it would be no. To be fair, just so I can be clear on this, when I was doing the bug reports for Book of Hours, I think a number of you know that I've been able to use this feature quite a bit in Book of Hours to do some rather silly things in terms of memory, and the reason I kind of knew how to do that was because I have sort of exploited this in Cultist Simulator, but to a lesser extent, because in the end, the structure of Cultist Simulator doesn't reward the kind of activity. Now, for those of you that haven't seen Book of Hours, essentially one of the things is that you'll run into this uniqueness quite often with something called memories, and memories can be very useful for improving your skills in particular fields. And there can be reasons why you would. I mean, I think advancing your skills is something that just generally in RPGs is considered to be a desirable thing. So I probably don't need to explain that, but it's very useful. But the drawback is one of the challenges for upgrading skills is basically the fact that because certain memories are unique, you should be trying to get a combination of different things in order to be able to achieve that. So the higher you go with a skill, the more difficult it should be. And in the earliest version, it was possible to get lots and lots of duplicate memories and essentially make it trivial to get to a very high level in terms of certain skills. Now there is a smaller version of that exploit, which is less useful overall because there are certain requirements that have been put in the upgrade recipe. But basically, because in the case of Book of Hours, you have lots of different sort of menus in which these things are happening, and you're able to sort of collect something before it becomes unique and then it transfers over. Basically, in the case of Cultist Simulator, you've got two places where a card can be. It can be in its verb, or it can be in on the desktop. And in the case of Book of Hours, there's all of the different verbs. And then there are the different storage containers for like memories, sundries, things like that. Basically, you can wind up in these situations where there's lots of different places for the unique items to go. And what that can mean is that you're able to manipulate things in such a way that you can wind up with a big stack of duplicates that are not checking for uniqueness. And in that case, you wind up in a situation where you're taking advantage of the game. So in this particular case here, right, I could have used that for the Port Noon anecdote, and in this case here, it would have been, I just would have had the one anecdote sitting here, one anecdote sitting here, and effectively it means that it would just mean that the study verb is not being used. But I'm not using the study verb anyway because I need to capture the experienced swindler in 43 seconds. So it's not like I'm still suffering kind of the effects anyway. So just one of those things. So, but yeah, it's just one of these cases where you can see, like, it's a system that works rather well for Cultist Simulator. It might even be, so I'm going to guess that the fact that I can still do the exploit in Book of Hours and the fact that I can do it in Cultist Simulator may even be intentional on the part of Weather Factory. Because if you think of it, like, think of the alternative where I wind up doing this Port Noon anecdote. If I were to see that Port Noon anecdote vanish while it was in my hand, I'd be pretty cross. So at the very least, collecting the item is a sort of defining act. It's like one of these things where I'm like, okay, I am choosing to pick this item, and it's my fault if I haven't paid attention to the fact that there is a unique item. I think, I'll be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure why they do this for the Port Noon anecdote. I know that for the top level of any lore, it gets unique, but in the case, like, none of the other lore will give you access to locations, so it is a little funny that Port Noon behaves this way. Just because, again, I can see how it basically makes a situation where somebody has something bad happen to them. But it's easy enough to work around. But again, because Cultist Simulator is built one way, and because the wait a minute. I always thought the Wreck of the Cristobal was. So maybe that's drawn at random? It can't be drawn at random. Anyways, this is what we've been looking for. So, the Wreck of the Cristobal. A sea beast came to love this vessel, but when she would not return its affections, the sea beast crushed it. Even now, the beast will not leave the ship's corpse. Bedecked as it is with occult treasures, we must dive carefully. Okay. We have a few things to get through. So, step 1. Put away the swindler. Step 2. Get the Callagine exploring. I am going to want to deal with the restlessness, so we're going to refresh the job. I don't have a Season of Visions coming up, so... Now, under normal circumstances, I would use the old unhappy far-off things to clear out the fascination, but that's not good. Whenever the principle of the lantern sheds its light, I may recall additional scraps of knowledge. So with that, I will double up the furtive truths. I've locked this one away safely. When their screaming and raving subsides, I will subdue them properly. Okay, so next up, we tuck them away. This will buy their loyalty for now, and we have food for the spider's door. So remember, I think it was this episode I was talking earlier about how these things can sort of have these big knock-on effects. Like, this is a great example of how, you know, one move on my part just unlocked 3 or 4 different verbs. All right. So I'll leave the talk verb alone for now. Okay, we have a free turn. Be careful of the restlessness, and I do need to cure my affliction. I'm safe for now. My adversary has not enough evidence to bring a case against me, and they found no new clues. Maybe I was unlucky, but I definitely feel like there was a version of this where if you had notoriety on the table and the Suppression Bureau picked it up, you would always have evidence. This game definitely feels much more forgiving in terms of the evidence. Wisdom is a country, and these are its maps. Solve all the challenges on both fragments of lore to complete a research task. So this will save me a little money. And once we're done in 10 seconds, I will explore the wreck of the Crystal. Alright, progress. The constant clatter of closing doors, the damp stains on station walls, the smell of boot polish and unwashed constables. All this narrows to a single crystalline truth. I've made progress and earned myself some overtime pay. So in this case here, I want to get rid of the restlessness with painting, and this time I'm going to use reputation because I'd rather not generate more fascination. This should have an impact. Right, this will buy their loyalty for now. So we'll take the shifty woman, put her in the cupboard, and then we will go to the wreck of the Crystal. We'll use the Callagine right away for that. So here we go, and I think we can just add another Forge follower at this point because we know we'll have to cross the waters. Storms have lifted the Crystal from the sea to lay it on a reef, but a wreck with such a sad end will carry a curse, and the beast that once loved it remains there still. So this sounds like a rather miserable one for me to go on, but we know we get the Frangiclave in the end. Last night in the Mansis, I visited the Mallory, from whose hammers and crucibles one does not emerge unchanged, and for 9 beats my heart ceased while I entered the fires of the forge, and the passions of the forge entered into it. I woke with the dawn, and its poor divided colors inspire memories of the forge's passion for the sun, of the vagabond's curse, and of the Grail's deep longing. So many half-memories. I probably should have explored with this Port Noon anecdote, actually, but it's fine, because there's other stuff that I need to do, so... Let's take the affliction and the vitality. And I think we may want to end it there. I can use this erudition for... I could have used the library as well, but we're fine. Alright, the wolf despair prowls elsewhere. No dread empowers this despair. It's over for now. So, let's take a review of the position, and then we will call it for tonight. I'm painting, so this was mostly to get rid of the restlessness. If I want, I could, like the Season of Despair is gone, but I don't have a way of getting the restlessness back, so it's not really worth... I'm just adding the money because I'm rich, and I'm almost certainly going to have more than 200 by the end of by the end of this run, unless I like really go crazy with buying stuff. Excuse me. Healing up. We're moving up the furtive truth. Like, so in this case here, I'm trying to minimize the number of trips to the Mantis that I need to take to get the expeditions that I need. But the fact of the matter is I need to go from unresolved ambiguity and higher if I'm going to be getting to the level that I need. Like, what I mean by that is, Forbidden Epics have land on... Wait a minute. Have I done Land Beyond the Forest? I think that has Voivode Citadel, so we should... Yes, I think we're good. I think it is Unresolved Ambiguities and higher. So these don't do anything for me. Essentially, I want to be upgrading these as much as I can. The Furtive Truths are the ones that I use if I don't have... if I don't have Glimmering on the table, and if I have Glimmering on the table, usually what I want to do is upgrade... actually, I don't even want to upgrade Unresolved Ambiguities right now. I want to upgrade Forbidden Epics. But yeah, the idea here now is the goal is to have all of the books. The books will come from different expeditions, and I've got my Excel sheet which points out what books I get from what expedition. But because I am going to get the Frangiclave at the end of this expedition, there's a different approach that I'm going to be taking. Instead of working my way up with lore, which is going to take a very long time in some cases. So in terms of the Furtive Truths that we have, I basically have room for 3 more Furtive Truths, which means I have 6 Forgotten Chronicles, which means that's 3 Forbidden Epics. So a total of 7 Forbidden Epics, which translates to 3 Unresolved Ambiguities. And I'm going to be using the Unresolved Ambiguities for other things, but in theory, the 6 Unresolved Ambiguities are potentially 3 Vagabonds maps. So clearly I don't have enough to be able to explore all of the different areas that I would want. If I go to the Peacock Door, I'm pretty sure I start at an Unresolved Ambiguity and can potentially get a Vagabond's map. So even if I find that I actually need more of the Rending Mountains, it's still not that bad for me to just take a Vagabond's map and break it down into smaller parts. It's just simply easier because it's one trip to the Mantis. But anyways, again, we'll work with the cards that we've been given. I got this big stack for different reasons, but it's one that I do have. Like, the thing is that we've changed the approach a number of different times in response to how the game has changed as far as expeditions work. But I do still get to take advantage of the large stack of Furtive Truths and other low-level secret histories, in the sense that I have something I can use my study verb for in terms of upgrading things. So it's not entirely wasted time here. But like I said, that is all going to be something that we deal with on... This should be Wednesday's episode, so Thursday. So thank you very much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.